Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Srinivas Kambhampati. I'm an associate editor for IGO, JCOT, and Jassm. I would like to thank Professor Maini and Professor Vaishya for this opportunity. And my charge here is to talk on tables for scientific manuscripts. So let's address this topic by using the traditional list of queries, namely what, why, when, where, and how. So what is a table? The word table is derived from Old English table, which is derived from the Latin word tabula, meaning a board, plank, flat top piece. Its current spelling reflects the influence of the French tableau. It is a two-dimensional data structure that organizes information into rows and columns. It can be used to both store and display data in a structured format. Let's look into the anatomy of the table. Parts of the table are given here. The title helps the reader understand what information is recorded. It is advisable to give the variables in the title. And columns are vertical divisions and rows are horizontal divisions. First row usually has column headings, and column headings are the variables presented. The independent variable is usually placed on the left-hand side column and presented in an ascending or descending order based on one or many of the dependent variables that are placed on the right of the independent variable. Units of measurement should be mentioned in the column heading to avoid repetition. Footnote gives instructions that help in reading the table. Data can be presented under subheadings, nested headings. Totals can be presented as a whole or among groups as subtotal. Tables in manuscripts are different from those in Excel and Access because the data can be analyzed further in these softwares, whereas that presented in the manuscript is usually a product or the end result of that analysis, highlighting the findings and certain aspects to the readers. So the difference between a manuscript table and Office software table I've summarized here. For a table in the manuscript, the rows are of limited number, usually restricted to one page maximum, whereas in Excel and Access, it's unlimited, sometimes going up to thousands and millions of rows. For columns, it's the same, limited number, restricted to one page. For the softwares, there can be multiple columns. Analysis is usually by visual in table manuscripts, whereas further analysis can be done by sorting, filtering, pivoting, or relational fields or calculated fields in the softwares. Automatic calculations or calculated fields are not possible in a table manuscript, whereas it's possible in Excel and Access. Presenting unrelated data is possible in manuscript, whereas it's not possible in Excel and Access, because they're usually constrained by some rules. Customized presentation, again, is possible in a manuscript, whereas in the softwares, these are constrained by rules defined while forming the tables. Why do we use tables? We use tables to summarize data, commonly to present demographic data. Tables are used to present data in a concise form in a manuscript. When chosen and presented well, they save space and give the reader information packed for visual analysis by themselves. They give structure to data that can be presented in a readable form. They can be structured and presented to readers to identify patterns and relationships in a data. There are three aspects of a table: the content as to what should go into the table, the format of the table. This usually can be got from the author instructions of the journal. Where do we place the table? Usually it's next or after the relevant text in the main manuscript, or at the end of the manuscript, or as a separate Word file containing all tables, or one file for each table, depending on what the journal instructions tell us to do. Each journal has their own instructions on how we format tables. So how do we create tables? The most common way is to copy from Excel and paste it on the Word file. You can also create a table in Word. We have a short video on how to create table and the multiple options available to format the table in Word document. Just try and start the video here. So you could choose the number of columns and rows to be inserted by selecting as shown. There are two options here, insert table and draw table. Insert table is used to insert the table. Instead of selecting like this, it gives options of number of columns and rows. Supposing you have number of rows that you want more number of rows that are depicted here, you can use this insert table option to create more rows and columns. Draw table is used to draw a table the way you want it. It's an interesting option. I would recommend you to try it out, and it's useful when you want to merge a few cells in the header rows. When you press the tabs, the tabs progress in the order you make the cells. Once you place the table, you can choose the style of your table by picking from the style formats as shown there. You can select the alternate row coloring, which is useful. That's coloring for the cells, and that is for making borders. By selecting border, you can create a border for a single cell, single side, or the whole table. All options are given here. By pressing the plus mark, you can select the whole table and format the whole table the way you want. I have pasted a sample table here, selected the whole table and selected the style for it. You can move the table by hand to place the page in the page, or by selecting options in the design. You will select the table by either clicking the plus or by clicking inside one of the cells. You can see options on the left side that are ticked over here. We will come to that shortly. So these are the options on this side. These are header row. So if you click on the header row, it formats the header row in a particular way. First column, it formats only the first column. The total row, the last column formats the last column. Total row is usually at the bottom here, formats the total row. Banded rows, it creates bands for the rows, and banded columns, it creates bands for the columns. Banded rows is more recommended than creating banded columns. So you can see the options under the draw table. Insert option has inserting rows or column at a specific place, deleting row or column for a specific place under the delete option, selecting cell, row, or a column under the select option, split cells, splits the cells, and split table, splits the table in a specified place. So auto fit and distribute is a useful option to fit your table in a page. The table may be fit to contents or fit to window, or you can use fixed column widths for each of the columns. The other options are to distribute rows evenly or columns evenly. Convert option over here can convert text or table, text to table or table to text. If you format it in a particular way, convert text to a table. Next option is table properties. Come to that shortly. So it's at the bottom here. So here you can set the properties for a table, for a row, for a column, for a cell. And these are our options available under each heading. And you can place a title here. So what are the rules for tables? Is the table really needed? You need to decide whether you want to put the table or not, get the parts of the table right, make sure numbers add up. Do not give large data tables, split to different tables if possible. So clear and relevant data is required. Use figure where possible in place of table. Get the units, decimals of the values right, and appropriate widths of columns and space for the rows. Formatting should be simple, clear, neat, no clutter of numbers. Vertical lines are usually not recommended because the natural reading style is horizontal. And that's why horizontal banding is more recommended than banding of the columns. The do's for the table, legend, sometimes called the caption, goes above the table. Units are specified in the column headings wherever possible. Lines of demarcation are used to set legend, headers, data, footnotes. They should be set apart from one another when you are designing the table. Footnotes are used to clarify points in the table or to convey repetitive information about entries. Footnotes may also be used to denote statistical differences among groups. All tables given at the end of manuscript or in a separate page. That's based on journal instructions. If references are to be used in the table using a reference manager, it's advisable to use the table at the preferred location to get your references numbering right, and then shift the table out of the manuscript once you get the numbers right. Most common use of the table is for demographic data of the study population. While presenting table from published paper, get permission to reproduce and stick to formatting rules recommended for journal. Give list of tables at the end of manuscript and indicate in text where each of the tables are to be placed. The don'ts: do not use too many colors, no decoration, too many subtotals are to be avoided. Do not forget to cite tables in the text, and do not repeat numbers in the table that are given in the table in the text also. Common errors that we see when we are dealing with manuscripts related to the tables are the tables may not be labeled, they may not be cited in the text, they are repeating numbers in the text. Too many tables, usually less than 7 are recommended, including the figures, or the tables are too big, too much information, numbers are not adding up. When you add up the numbers of the totals or the percentages, they don't add up. Units are not given or missing from the column heading. Abbreviations are not expanded in the footnotes. I've given the journal instructions here for the Indian Journal of Orthopaedics. These are the instructions for the table. So all tables are to be numbered using Arabic numerals, and tables should always be cited in the text in the consecutive numerical order. For each table, you should supply the table caption. We have gone that before, explaining the components of the table, identify any previously published material by giving the original source in the form of a reference at the end of the table. Footnotes to table should be indicated by superscript, lowercase letters, and included beneath the table body. Tables should be given as supplementary material for IJO. For JCOT, the instructions are they should be submitted as editable text and not as images. So that's important. Tables can be placed either next to the relevant text or on separate pages. So there is an option here. You can do any way you want. Number tables consecutively in order with their appearance in the text, and place any table notes below the body. And be sparing in the use of tables. Ensure that data presented in them do not duplicate elsewhere in the article. So we have seen this instruction repeat. So that's very important. Do not repeat information. Please avoid using vertical rules, shading in table cells. So to summarize, tables are useful tools to convey data and information in manuscripts. They have a big impact on quality of the manuscript if used optimally, and you should get the rules of the tables right, get the do's and don'ts of the table right, and it's useful to know the features in the Microsoft Word on how to create and present tables and to format the tables. Always check journal instructions before submission of the table. Thank you very much.